Students, in our third part of this chapter of pressure groups, popular struggles and movements, today we will do that they how do they influence the politics. Now, first of all, pressure groups and movements, that how pressure groups and movement exert influence on politics in different ways, so that how they influence, that we will understand in politics. Now, first of all, the main thing is that these pressure groups always try to get public support and their sympathy. Here, I mean to say that basically we see that these pressure groups always try to get the support of the public through, and also try to get their sympathy so that they can achieve their goal. And their activities by carrying out informations like they are doing campaigns, organizations and meetings, filling petitions, etc. They also try to influence media so that the nation hears their aim or whatever they want to achieve. So I think the first point is clear, that they always try to get public support and sympathy, and this is how they try to influence politics in a democracy. Now, our second point is that they often organize protest activity like strikes, disturbing government program, etc. So this is how they try to influence government and pressurize the government to fulfill their demands. Now the third point. Now let us come to the third point. In the third point, as we hear in America the word lobby. Now what is lobby? Here, lobby. The story of this lobby is that in America, if we see their parliament, which they call Congress, in that Congress, in the hall, there are some balconies. These balconies are called lobby. America is a very rich country. Two parties are there because it's an industrial nation. So businessmen always give a lot of donations to the candidates, so that when they become a member of Congress, means a Senate, they can fulfill their demands. So when those members to whom these businessmen give donations, they pressurize those candidates during the session through lobby. When they will sit in lobby, means the balconies. So from there the word lobbyist comes. The simplest meaning of the lobby is pressurized. So business group often employ professional lobbyists or sponsor expensive advertisements, and this is how they try to influence government activities. So today what we done is that how pressure groups of movement influence politics, that is by getting public support they try to influence politics through different kinds of protest activities like strikes, and the next thing is that through their powerful lobby they try to influence politics. Now madam, while interest group and movements do not directly engage in the politics, but somewhere they exert influence to politics. The relationships between the politics and pressure group can take different forms, some directly and other very indirectly. Let us understand it through these points, that how political parties and pressure groups, or what are the relations between both of them. The first thing is that the pressure groups either formed or led by the leaders of political parties. For example, most of the trade unions and students organizations in India also, we have organizations of students unions, AISO, SU, etc. They all are led by or supported by two parties of India. They are the Congress and the BJP. So this is how we see that some pressure groups are either formed or led by the political parties. The second relation which we basically see is that sometimes political parties grow out of movement. The best example of this is that Assam Parishad in Assam. They start These particular organizations, they start a movement against the foreigners which are coming to Assam and disturbing their culture. Later on they decide to make political parties, and this is how they pressurize the government and represent the problem of Assam through this political parties. Similarly, we can take the example of DMK and AIADMK. So Dravid Munnetra Kadgam and All India Anna Dravid Munnetra Kadgam, they both once started the movement against the language Hindi and support their own language Tamils. But later on they decide to make a political parties as like Assam Parishad, and now in a very formal manner they present their problem of Tamil Nadu through Parliament of India. So the two relationships what we see here is that sometimes political pressure groups formed or led by the political parties. On the other hand, sometimes we see that these political parties once were of pressure groups as like Assam Parishad, DMK and AIADMK. And the next thing is that in most of the cases, the relationship between political parties and interest or the movement groups, what we can say, is not so much direct. Movement groups have raised new issues that were being taken by the political parties, or most of the new leadership of political parties comes from interest or movement groups. Now the last topic of this chapter is there influence healthy? The answer is both. Now that depends that how they influence to the politics of India and how political parties react on their issues. It may initially appear that it is not healthy, but sometimes it will be a healthy. A democracy must look after the interest of all, not just one. That is a democracy. Now political parties has to face the people in election, while pressure group does not. So whatever political party is doing, the thing which they kept in their mind is that After some time, they all have to face again to people of India and ask them to give vote to them. But this type of problem is not with pressure groups. The another thing is that political parties get funds, or what we can say donations, but pressure groups and movements may not get their funds and support from the people. Sometimes we see that these pressure group with a very small aim, but they all have a lot of money, and this is how they hijack public discussions in favor of their narrow agenda. This narrow agenda, कहने का मतलब ये है कि कई बार हमको देखने को मिलता है कि पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज जो जो प्रेशर ग्रुप्स होता है, उनका जो एजेंडा होता है वो तो बहुत छोटा होता है, पर उनके खुद के पास जो मनी और जो पावर होती है उसके बूते वो पब्लिक डिस्कशंस को हाईजैक कर लेते हैं और उसको अपने फेवर में कर लेते हैं. एक चीज हमें ये भी देखने को मिलती है. However, both the pressure groups and movements have deepened the democracy, and that this is true, and that is why putting pressure on rulers is not an unhealthy in a democracy. Now, but the next thing is that sometimes we see that government itself can often come under undue pressure of these small groups. Now here the meaning of undue is a lot of excess, too much excess, means too much pressure. So sometimes because of the too much pressures of these small groups, governments comes under on these pressure groups. Even the sectional and interest groups play a valuable role. Not only the pressure groups, movements where different groups function actively, no one single group can achieve dominance on society. If one group brings pressure on government to make policies in its favor, another will bring counter pressure not to make the policies in the way the first group desires. कहने मतलब ये है कि कई बार एक प्रेशर ग्रुप अगर अपने फेवर में पॉलिसीज के लिए गवर्नमेंट को प्रेशर करता है, तो दूसरा ग्रुप ऐसा होता है जो उसको प्रेशर करता है कि वो ऐसा ना करें. वी कैन टेक द एग्जांपल फ्रॉम नर्मदा डैम or the Tehri dam or any kind of dam made by government, because these dams helps the industries, so industrial groups pressurize the government to make the dam. On the other hand, if there is any industry which is doing work or her work is related to forest or any kind of NGO who are against of it, now they pressurize the government not to make the dam. So sometimes this type of problems also creates in front of government. Now if you see the whole chapter, then the conclusion is that the pressure group and movements, if they are come with a right manner, with a good aim, then it is healthy for the not only for the government, for the country also. As we can see during the example of right to information, and also during the example of this Anna Hazare movement. I hope the chapter, which is very easy, is clear in your mind. The main thing in this chapter is two things. These two things are pressure groups and movements. The pressure groups are totally do they work in an organized manner, means they are formal manner. These pressure groups are also of two types: sectional interest groups, on other hand public interest groups. And the next one is the movement, which do their work not in an organized manner and also change their aim. And we can see a lot of mobilizations in movement. That's all in this chapter. Any kind of problem, then please comment to me.